Claudia, thank you for the film. Please, if you would like to tell us a little bit, because I know what you said last night, and I encourage you to tell the story about how the 10 years came about and why it's 10 years and what the film was about initially.
Yeah, the film was not meant to be shot over 10 years. Actually, in the very beginning, I wanted to make an instant movie. In 2008, we had elections, and I heard that a woman from my town would run for the parliament. Since I was already passionate about politics, I thought to make an instant movie about this political campaign in order to show to Europe what was happening in Italy. But actually, I was really sure that those elections would have been the election when we would have kicked Berlusconi out from the political scene. So my idea was, let's make a film about these brave women defeating Berlusconi, finally. So I got to know them, I met them, I asked them if I could follow them during the process of campaigning for the election, and they said yes. So I spent 1 month going around, through very little villages, talking to people about politics. It was extremely boring, but it was fun with them because they are very, very funny people, and we became very good friends. But at the end, Berlusconi won. So there was no instant movie. I didn't know what to do with that footage because the footage was boring, Berlusconi was not defeated, and I didn't have any story in my hands. So I just kind of aborted the project for a while. But then I was talking with a producer from Denmark, and I was talking about this footage, and she said, I think you should go back to that idea, because in Europe we don't know anything about what's happening in the Italian political scene, especially when it comes to women. We don't know how women react to this person who is Berlusconi, who at that time was very, very popular everywhere because he was doing, some stupid things, and he was very sexist and stuff like this. So the point was, show us how Italian women are reacting to him. And in 2011, when there was the birth of the women's movement, which you have seen here, I thought, okay, I can go back to my project and I can make a film about an army of women defeating Berlusconi. But then after 2 years, the movement split up. So again, I had no happy ending, and I had no story. But already I was very close to my characters. I really wanted to spend time with them, and I was really, really learning something from them. So I wanted to go on, and already it was not an option for me to abort the project at that point. Even though money was not arriving, televisions were not interested because they said, "Oh, it's another feminist movie, and Italian politics too complicated." Ooh. But I went on, and at a certain point, the French television stepped in, and they wanted me to deliver the film because they wanted to show what was happening in Italy before the election. And so I did. I delivered the film to the French television, but I was not satisfied with the film because, in my opinion, it was not really closing a process. The process could be closed only after the last election. Because it was already before our eyes the fact that there was an arc that had happened during these last 10 years. There was the death of something, the rise of something else, but also, in my opinion, there was some hope. The death was the death of, in Italy, of representative democracy. People don't believe in their representatives anymore. And at the same time, there is the rise of populism. But nevertheless, what I experienced during these 10 years was that I could trust those politicians. So it makes no sense to distrust the whole category because, it's not a category. There are people working hard and people exploiting the situation, or people who are corrupted. What happened to me is that I was able to distinguish between people. So I could trust them, I could rely to them, I could discuss with them, because we are not always on the same positions. I mean, I'm not a voter of their party, I'm more left than them. So, but we were always respectfully discussing issues. And for me, they were an example of good politicians. So the point is, everyone, it doesn't matter what party people vote for, everyone has to, distinguish between the good and the bad politicians. And then I think that we can really improve our country. So the story of this film is a story of failures, one failure after the other. And in the film, you see the feeling of failure of Manuela and Daniela. But I hope that their feeling of frustration and of failure can be balanced by my look at them, which is a look which has discovered some hope. Because I saw something that could be an example for me. They made choices which left a good legacy. I can learn from them, and this is what is very important for me.
Before I give the mic to people in the hall, you were saying yesterday night, we had a similar watching, that they changed their minds about, they were saying that they're going to retire or go back to the universities, but now they're thinking after you release the movie that maybe not.
Yeah, when I finished the film, when I did the last shooting, they were completely disenchanted, very, very tired, very sad for everything that had happened, for the defeat after the election. So they really wanted just to give up with everything. Also, when I released the trailer of the film, we were very hardly attacked on Facebook, and we felt very bad because the attacks came from our community, not from all Italy, from our village. The same people that we meet in bar when we go to have breakfast were attacking us very hardly on Facebook with really offensive words, and we were, very sad.
But why is that?
Because in the trailer, you could see, the fat man in the council talking about small inconvenience. Unfortunately, that guy is from the League, Salvini's party, and unfortunately, that guy has died. So, according to people who saw the trailer, and in Italy, they don't have a clue about what a narrative documentary is. We don't watch the narrative documentary in television. People from my town, they saw this trailer, but they thought it was a propaganda movie for the elections. I mean, and they were just complaining, saying that we were exploiting the guy who unfortunately has died to do some propaganda for the Democratic Party. But you've seen the film. There is nothing like this in this film. So I tried to explain. It was we went through a very difficult weekend, but fortunately, then there was another issue for haters, and they forgot about us. But to go back to the previous question, after the film was released had its premiere in Leipzig, when we got a lot of success, and we were very happy about that. I don't know, my characters, Manuela and Daniela, they have started looking at their adventure from a different perspective, thanks to the perspective of the audience. Because they felt a bit lost. They entered they are normal people. Manuela is a professor at the university. Daniela used to be a housewife. They entered politics as normal people trying to do something for their country. And they were representing a lot of people pushing them to be in charge of a seat, because we really trusted them. But at a certain point, people just didn't trust them anymore, but with no reason, because they were not corrupted, they were very honest, hardworking, they were doing their best, but simply people hated them because they had become politicians, the category. So, I mean, at a certain point, they did not know for whom they were fighting for. They were fighting hard, and also Manuela, when she was in the coalition that was at the government, she was fighting against her minister, because he was not really caring about the educational policy that she had in mind. So it is not that when you are a parliamentarian and your party is at the government, you have to be a yes woman or a yes man. They are not. So within the winning coalition in 2013, Manuela, she was fighting against her minister because in her opinion, he was not putting enough effort to improve the educational system. So she was fighting against the government, which was her government, but she did not know for whom she was fighting for, because people were not following her anymore. So, I mean, for them, it was very bad. But now that there is an audience that is understanding what they did, I mean, they're reconsidering the whole thing. And Manuela, she was nice. She sent me an SMS while I was in Leipzig, and she said, you know what, I'm starting dreaming again. So, you know, I had a dream, but now I have it again. It's not become a nightmare. It's not over. I mean, I can start dreaming, and I'm very happy for that, because I mean, we need this kind of people, and I hope they will, you know, go on. Even though Manuela, she has gone back to the university, and Daniela is really retired, but she will fight in another way.
Okay, so if there are questions from the audience, we have a mic here.
Thank you. Congratulations for the movie, first of all. I think it's very interesting to see the perspective from a feminist or female view, let's say, in Italy, where I can still see the shadow of Berlusconi around everywhere. As far as I can remember, there was actually a boost in the number of females in the government post Berlusconi's leaving and going to jail and so on. So if I'm not mistaken, in the Renzi government there was a higher number of female ministers, so it increased quite a lot. And how do you see their work, and how do you think they have changed the perspective of women in politics, and if there is any positive outcome out of that, or on the contrary, because now there is not much of a female movement in Italian politics, if I know it well. Because we also face it in Romania. We have a female prime minister, but I'm not sure everyone is happy about the image she's representing for the females in politics in general, or for the females in Romania overall. Thank you.
Well, I'm not an expert, but as a citizen, what I can say is that yes, during Renzi government there were more women in the government, but you know, women usually they sit in departments where there are no money. So I mean, it's hard to see a woman in charge of a department that makes a difference. And okay, but at least they are at the government. Okay. After that, we had this new government with Salvini and Di Maio, Movement 5 Stars. And, you know, the situation is not good for women because there are less women than there used to be before. And also, especially Salvini is sponsoring an idea of women which is very old-fashioned, very, you know, middle-aged period. Like, for example, at the end of the month, there will be, now there is a lot of mess in Italy because of this, there will be a big congress in Verona, sponsored by the, that's unbelievable, by the Minister of Family. In Italy now we have the Minister of Family, which is quite funny for me. I mean, what's the point about the family? But anyway, we have a Minister of Family, and this guy is from the League, Salvini's party, and he has organized this congress in Verona, where there are anti-abortionist, homophobic speakers, there are anti-divorce speakers. So it's like, I mean, a sort of restoration of the past, which is quite frightening. I mean, because, you know, there are some rights that, I mean, human rights have always to be preserved. All rights have to be preserved. It seems that when a woman does abortion, it's because she has fun, but it's not like that. When a woman decides to do that, there are reasons, and it's difficult for a woman to make that decision. So to have a country which is against this woman, it's really not good. Also, the anti-divorce, let's say, speakers, they are promoting a model of, separation of the family, so that then the man is not supporting the former wife anymore. So of course women want divorce, because they won't be, if they don't have a job, because they spend their life caring about the children, they are not able to, to earn their living, or, have the money to raise their children. So the situation is now getting worse and worse. I hope that it's just because now in Italy it's quite fashionable to have fascist ideas. I hope it is just a matter of fashion, and that civil movement will react strongly. Actually, there are already people in the streets, and this is the good news. Feminist movements are standing up. We have Me Too movement. We have other young people now are following Greta Thunberg. Last Friday, we had thousands of young people in the streets protesting for the climate change, asking for a different policy. So, people are kind of reacting right now. But for us, this last election were really a shock. We thought we were lost. We thought to be back to the 20s when fascists were in charge. But now we are kind of reacting because, they are very powerful on the media. They are controlling mainstream media. They are controlling social networks. Because Steve Bannon was also behind the campaign of Salvini. So, those kind of people are really manipulating public opinion. But what is happening is that people are meeting in headquarters, meeting in the streets, meeting in bars, meeting at cinemas, and we have realized that we are a lot of people against them. There are a lot of open-minded people who welcome migrants from everywhere, for example, who care about how they have what kind of work conditions they have, for example, and education, So, I don't know, it takes time, but I think that, as Newton said, for every action there is a reaction. So let's hope that the physics works also applied to human beings.
Until we get another question, I would like to get back to something you said last night that I really liked, on the fact that what is interesting about your film is that it reflects on one side on politicians, but it also reflects on citizens' relationship with politicians. Because you were saying that Manuela lost support of the people once she was a politician, and I think it serves us to think about how do we relate to the people who get up being elected, either because we supported them or not. How do we continue to relate to them after that happened? You go to meetings, don't you go to meetings? Do you have to be interested in the boring stuff that happens in council meetings? It also serves to think about what our role is as well as citizens, I think. And I really love that conclusion from you yesterday.
I'm not sure I remember what I said yesterday, but it's a bit as Alexis de Tocqueville used to say about democracy. Democracy is not just about voting. That's not enough. Democracy is about politicians who cares about what they do and who are not corrupted, but it has also to do about citizens taking care of the common thing. So democracy is all these forces together. And in the last century it was easier because the left parties used to have a network quarter where people used to meet and discuss about policies. Then there was a representative who talked to the central committees, and all together they decided something. So they were listening to people. Today people don't go to headquarters anymore. They don't meet, they don't discuss. So it's like there is a total disconnection between the electors and the representative, the voters and the representatives. But in my region, for example, still there is something which has to do with what was happening in the last century. In fact, we have very often, we call them feste dell'unità. It's let's say it's events that we have along the years, where volunteers cook for free, people go eat, and with that money we support the party. But what happens is that when you go to cook and you do it before the event is in place, I mean, parliamentarians, city councillors, citizens, everyone is sitting and making homemade food. So we discuss. And it's a way how to, you know, be close and discuss about politics. And we do it quite often. So, and also we have local headquarters. There are not many people going, but there are people going. Other parties, they don't have it anymore. And this new party movement 5 Stars, which is owned by a company, so it's already a contradiction in terms, because they are not allowed to disagree with the line imposed by the company which owns the party. For example, they meet online, and I think there are maximum 50,000 people discussing online policies, but 50,000 people on 60 millions of voters. I mean, it's like, no, we are not 60 million of voters, we are a little less, of course, because 60 millions is the whole population of Italy, but you know, 50,000, it's really few people. When we have our Feste dell'Unità, there are a lot of people discussing about politics, there are debates, so, you know, we discuss even hard. Because it's not about, as I said, being yes women or yes men. It's about taking care, discuss, and find the best solution which can solve problems. So, I mean, my idea is that the best thing to do is to participate to city councils, to participate to events when politicians are available to discuss their policies, or to report what is happening in the parliament. Because, for example, during, a few years ago, I made a film about palliative care. And I remember once I was doing a screening in Rome, and I asked to a senator to come and tell us what the fuck was happening in the parliament about a law that we were waiting about, you know, we call it biological will. It's when you make your decision about how to stop overtreatment. And there was this long discussion in the parliament, and we had this idea that it was leading to nothing, this discussion. So we asked this senator to come after the screening and talk to us, and he came. He came. He's a colleague of Manuela. He's from my area. The point is that I know my senators. I know my parliamentarians, and I have their phone numbers. And if they talk to me, it's not because I am, you know, protected by someone. It's because I am a voter, because I have access, and I very politely ask them to come and explain things. And of course, in the audience, there was people that did not agree with him, but he was pleased to discuss with us and explain what was the issue in the commission, in the welfare commission in the parliament. So I think we should do simply this, talk the same way as we do in our families. I mean, I don't know if you all agree always on everything, not in my family. So we discuss and we try to find a solution that could fulfill almost everyone. That's what we do.
I would start by a commentary. What I saw in your movie is what I think will happen in Romania in a year or 2 years' time. Unfortunately, it's a model that keeps reproducing in Europe. It looks like at the near European elections, 25% of the votes will go to populist parties. This model has spread in Eastern Europe as well. Poland and Hungary are a model. Romania is on its way the same, with a Turkish touch too. So I don't know where your hope can come from. And the questions are two questions. I have two questions. The results of these elections were blamed on fake news and an online war. We are in war right now. We don't use bullets anymore. We use fake news, which reaches better and larger audiences. So was that a question for the results of the elections, of the latest elections in Italy, the ones in 2013? Was that a question, if fake news and this internet war was to blame for the result? And the next question was, you said the French television showed interest in your project at some stage, and they withdrew, I guess. How did you end this project in terms of financing it? Thank you.
Okay, I follow your order. Hope. Where I have how come I have this hope? For two basic reasons. First reason, of course, I can only talk for my country because I can't talk for other countries which I don't know well. But Italian people are not faithful, which is bad, but sometimes it's good. So in this case, I don't think they will stick with these parties unless they do something good, and already they are doing very, very bad. All the promises they make, they're not able to maintain them. And people are tired of lies. Of course, the problem is that if they can't believe also to these people who claim themselves the honest ones, then it is a problem for democracy. But I think that we can face also this. So my hope comes from the idea that in a democracy, I mean, the good thing about democracy, which is not the best form of government ever, it's very imperfect because it depends a lot on the level of knowledge of people and on the level of honesty of people. So it's very imperfect, the same way as we are imperfect. But the good thing about democracy is that it can raise back from its ashes in the turn of an election. So things can change faster than in other cases. The other reason why I hope for a better future is that there are a lot of good people out there, and I can't believe they don't have voice. I mean, it's a matter of being organized, okay? To have a good network and being organized. So, but of course, the strife is constant. It's not something that at a certain point it's over and the good will win for good. I mean, it's quite unrealistic. But there are good people who want to fight, and that's fair enough for me. When it comes to fake news, we are kind of drowning in fake news. But there is no law, there is no debate. People kind of have fun because of fake news. But that's a very serious issue. For sure, Italian people didn't take them seriously as American people did. And this is something that we have to, I mean, as Manuela said, it is something that we have to face. And for sure, also from a legal point of view. Because if I have a blog and I publish fake news, it's like I am a journalist of a newspapers writing lies. So I should be suitable, because I'm doing something which is public, okay? So even though I'm not paid, because maybe I'm not paid, but I'm not sure about that, I mean, I can't deliberately provide fake information. I don't remember the... Financing. Financing. Oh, that's it was a total failure, because the only finance I had in place was the finance from my local film commission. So I can tell you, it was 23,000 euros. It's very few money. And then TV France, I mean, they bought the film, even though they wanted a version that did not include the last election, because for them it was too depressing. So the film for the French audience ends with a nice walk in the countryside, and the idea is, okay, now our mandate is over, but tomorrow is another day. But unfortunately, my co-producer, my French co-producer, got bankrupted, so I didn't get the money. So let's say that the film was made out of love, passion and friendship. That's what pushed me to get to the end of the process. But, you know, I'm grateful to this film. We have won a Golden Dove, and, you know, it is good for me and for my track record. So I had some, you know, very positive outcome. And also many people are writing to me and also to them, and they think we have to do something together, we have to fight, we have to build a network, and, you know, that's a fantastic outcome. So much better than money. You know, money comes, money goes, you never know. But, you know, this kind of relation with people, they might be everlasting, and that's really important for me.
Are there any more questions? If not...
No, I want to say something. You're not asking me what they think about the film.
Yeah.
Okay. Manuela hasn't seen the film yet. She doesn't want to see it, because she is very shy. So for her, it's too difficult to see herself on the big screen. But I think I will convince her to watch it in June, because I have promised not to release the film in Italy before the election, the local election that we have in May. Because if we release the film before then, it would be a total mess, and I don't want that. I want the election to go smoothly, and if the parties will fight, they have to fight for their own business, but not because of this film. So, I mean, until May, I'm not going to release the film, and in June I will do it, and Manuela will see it. Daniela has seen the film, of course, because that's the kind of person that likes herself very, very much. So she likes to see herself on the screen. She's complaining about the fact that she took some weight, because you can see it in the very beginning. She was very kind of, I don't know, Jane Fonda style. And at the end, you know, 10 years, it's many years. So she took some weight, and she's complaining about that, and she thinks that the film is too long. So this is the feedback that I had from them. Yeah. When we watched the footage, it was only 5 or 6 scenes. I screened them one scene per topic, even though the scene was not really the way how you've seen the scene here. I had to adjust them. So there was one scene per topic, and even though there were 2 scenes there that more or less stayed the same. And these 2 scenes were the nurse scene and the scene where when Manuela cries. For me, those 2 scenes are the pillars of the film. So they were packed already before they watched the movie. But all the other scenes were really very, very, very rough. And but it was just an excuse to talk about things. But yeah, they were complaining all the time. I have hours of them saying, "Oh, look how fat I'm here. Oh, look at the hair." They were complaining about the hairstyle, about the dresses, about everything. Of course, I didn't put these things in the film because it was a bit vain, but I have a lot of those comments.
If there aren't any more questions, I'd like to thank Claudia for being here with us yesterday and today, and for you guys having seen the movie. And we invite you to go to other films as well. You have a whole week ahead of you of very interesting films. We also adopted a film next week, Stalinist Process of Trial, actually. It's on Saturday and Sunday. So we also invite you to see those as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.